Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 21 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on recognizing God's hand in my life. Yay, I made it to day 21. I want to say it's kind of about time to do that, but today has been kind of an interesting day, and I've got a bunch of random thoughts, so I'm going to try to figure out how to organize them, say them. This is where my sister's suggestion where I write things down first would come in handy. And I wrote a bunch of stuff in my journal tonight, and that would come in handy, but I can't read my own handwriting, so we're just not going to go there. But also writing in my journal is just a way for me to process a lot of the emotions and triggers that I had today, so I didn't do as many things as I would have liked to because of all of that today. But I am grateful that God helped me to write in my journal tonight and to make my videos tonight, to just have that desire to do that desire to feel better, to feel different, and to feel that shift in my life, because I need that shift. I need things to be changing towards positive things, and I know as I've been making these videos over the past year or so, that I've had those shifts and that I've made progress in my life emotionally and spiritually and mentally, just the way that I process or view things in my life, and I'm grateful for that. I've also had lots of slips where I go backwards and back into old stinking thinking and old ways of doing things, and right now it's reminding me of a song from when I was a child growing up, going to age myself, but there was some song about my mind as a recorder, and everything that I put into it will play back to me at some point. So I need to be careful what I put into my mind, because it will come back to me. And I don't remember the song or the tune, just something about it being a little recorder and recording everything. And I think that's true. I also feel like I've been taught, and I believe that it's true, that the Holy Ghost, or God's Spirit, can bring things to mind, things from our past, things that we need to remember, things we need to process, things to help us with tests, things to, just be like, hey, remember this, because this is going to help you right now in this moment. And it's true, I've had that happen in my life. So that kind of goes along a little bit with today. I feel like that God was helping me today, because I was struggling. I'm house sitting this week. I don't think Dad Shoemaker would be very happy if I say that, but I'm at his house all week, so it's not like his house is empty. But he doesn't like people to know that he's out of town, but he doesn't watch my videos either. So by the time people watch all of these videos, they'll probably be back, and it will be way different depending on how often people watch my videos. Anyway, I need to get off of that subject, but nonetheless, I spent the night last night, and then I took my parents, to the airport today so that I could watch the house. But I'm a night owl. I stay up all night, and I sleep during the day, and I up in the afternoon. So I usually get up around like noon, and then I'm up until like 2 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. So going to bed at like 10 o'clock at night, my body was like, hey, we're just having a nice little nap, this is awesome. And then I was awake at like 1:30 this morning, and I was like, and I'm awake. I didn't need to be, but I was awake. So and then by the time church came around, I was like, and now I'm ready to sleep, and I don't want to go to church, I want to go back to sleep. And I had this this feeling. I know I've mentioned before in my videos that I have depression, and I do. It's not something that just goes away just because I have happy days and I do really well in my life, but it's something that's just always there, that always follows me around, and that sometimes it rears its ugly head and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And sometimes I have a lot of tools and things that I can use, and I can live my life around it. And sometimes I don't even feel it or recognize or realize that it's there, just waiting to rear its ugly head. So tonight I was writing in my journal about that. I think it was kind of imagining a dam, where when I'm reading my scriptures and meditationals and praying and going to church and doing exercising and positive things in my life, and things are going well in my life, I feel like that depression's all dammed up and all that water's held back, and it's like, and I'm fine and I'm good. And then other times life happens and that just flows over, or the floodgates open, because it's like, okay, too much water, big old rainstorm, something in life happened, and then my whole life just feels like it's flooded and I'm drowning and whatever it is, and the depression just kind of takes over, and it makes it really difficult for me to do anything. I feel like I'm just treading water until I can get to those controls and kind of dam it off again. And I'm kind of hoping there's some way in life to where I can just, make it to where I can just kind of open it up a little bit and let some water out every once in a while, release the pressure so it doesn't build up and doesn't have to flood. I have not learned how to do that yet. I'm much better. I'm like, hey, I got it held back, and I'm going to hold it there. I'm going to leave it there as long as absolutely possible because I don't want to let it out, because I don't want to deal with it. But I do that with all of my emotions, not just my depression. And depression is an emotion that everyone feels, everyone has. It's even one of the 5 stages of grief. So it's a natural thing to feel and to have. It's just when it's there every single day, it's a chemical imbalance or something, and it just doesn't, kind of takes over. And not just because I'm grieving about something, just because life, or just because that's something, that I have a challenge with, just like people that have ADHD, which I haven't been tested for, so I may or may not have, and that just makes the depression worse, I think. In some cases it can. But it's just, it's like people that have other issues. Sometimes they're more obvious and sometimes they're not. And depression is one of those ones that's not obvious and it's not out in the open. So I'm trying to learn to share and to put it out in the open so that others that are dealing with the same struggles that I have know that they're not alone and that they can get through this, because I'm sharing in my videos that I'm getting through this, that I'm doing this. So I think that's a positive thing. And I like to visualize things. I like to have that image of the dam and stuff in my head. So I feel like God is showing me these images and helping me to kind of view how things work and help me to process things out a little bit, which I think is awesome. So I think that's great. So I was journaling about that tonight. Like I said, if I had my journal, that would make things easier. But this morning when I was tired and wanted to sleep, I was thinking about not going to church. And as I was thinking about not going to church, I could feel like this dark blanket, just image of a dark blanket, just covering me and weighing me down, which is kind of what that depression feels like sometimes. And it's just this dark heaviness. And it's like, sometimes it's like a dark cloud. Today it was like a dark blanket. And I'm like, yay, I can't move, where I just feel like I'm trapped. And then it reminded me of one of the meditationals I've been reading. And a couple of days ago, I didn't read my scriptures and meditationals today, which is bad, but that's a whole nother story. But I did read this one a couple of days ago, and it kind of came back to my mind because, like I said, the Spirit can bring things back to your mind. God can remind you of things that you've read. And it was kind of a quote or talk from President Nelson, the prophet of the church, my church that I go to. And anyway, he basically was talking about sin and choices, and that some of the choices that we have, they trap our spirits in our body. And we believe that we're spiritual beings having a mortal experience or physical experience, not mortal beings having spiritual experiences. And sometimes we get those flipped around. I get those flipped around all the time. But that as we do things to align our will with God's, as we feel the Spirit, as we focus on God in our lives and what God's plan for us is, we feel lighter and we allow the Spirit to have control over the body. And I believe that when we pass, when we die, everything that we've learned, all of the emotions and everything stick with our spirit. They stick with our mind and our memory, and all of that lives on. The body does not, but the spirit does. And the spiritual experience, our spirits continue to live forever. And at some point, I think we get resurrected and we get our bodies back and we get to be immortal, which is cool. But that's a whole nother story. What is that saying that goes, as man now is, God once was, as God now is, man may become. And I like that. I really do. But also that kind of scares me because that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of power and a lot of other things that I just sometimes don't feel like I'm ready for or worthy of, which is something else I need to just work on. But anyway, I ramble. My brain goes different places, which is what makes me think I have ADHD, because I just go around in circles. But the point is, I was reminded of this, and I was feeling like my spirit, myself, who I am, was being trapped inside my body or inside my mind. And I felt that a lot of times in my life, where I just feel like I've given up control to someone else, given up power, and someone else has that power over me, or I've lost and I don't know who I am or what I'm doing because I've buried myself so deep inside me that I can't come out. And I love doing these videos because it's helping to let that part of me out, to let that hidden part shine and come out and say, hey, it's okay to be me. It's okay to let my spirit, my feelings, my emotions, who I really am, be out and be present for everyone to see, which scares me because I think I buried it to protect it. But I had that thought this morning, is that depression was coming on me, and I was like, I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be trapped. I feel like I'm finally just, this week has been really good for me, and I've been doing really good things and making my videos again and journaling and feeling really good about myself. And I don't want to go back into that dark cave. I don't want to get buried under this dark blanket of depression. So I decided to get up and go to church. I was a little bit late because of that, but at least I went. I was like, okay, because I didn't have my Sunday clothes with me, my church clothes with me, so I had to go home and get them and then go to church. So didn't really have time for that because I just delayed the entire process. But as I made the choice to get up and to go to church, that blanket just melted away. It just disappeared. The darkness was just gone in that moment. And I was so grateful that God brought that to mind, that imagery to mind for me, and that I can picture things as an image like that in my mind, and it allows me a way to counteract, to respond differently. And it doesn't always work that way for me. I'm not always willing to pay attention to that imagery, or sometimes I'm just not willing to fight it. I just don't have the energy, or I don't care, or whatever I'm dealing with at the moment. I was like, it's just not worth it. And I will, feel like I'm drowning, or I will let that blanket cover me, and I will hide. But I didn't want to do that this morning. And then I kind of wish that I had. But I'm grateful I didn't, because I know that's what God wanted me to do. But I was kind of embarrassed by it later, because today was fast and testimony meeting, and at church, my church, when we go the first Sunday of every month, we fast for things that we need or want in our life. It's also a way to teach to allow the spirit to have more control over the body, and and then we donate money and the amount that we would have spent for the meals that we fasted or didn't eat to the church, so that they can help other people that are without or that need help with something. So I love the concept, and I don't think that I do it perfectly by any means. So I'm hungry, and right now with the adjustments that they did in physical therapy, the longer I go without eating, the more nauseous and dizzy I feel. So I was just kind of like, oh, this is fun. I had a whole list of reasons not to go and not to deal with it today, and but I went. And then at Fast and Testimony meeting is when we get up and we get to bear our testimonies. So we get to do something similar to what I do in my little videos here. And I'm just sitting in the back because I snuck in and I was late. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit in the back and I'm not going to say anything. And nobody got up. But I got that little butterflies in my stomach. I know when I get butterflies in my stomach at church, it's kind of like, or when I have to give a talk or something, it's kind of like God saying, hey, you have something to say. You need to get up there and say it. And I'm just like, why? I don't want to. And again, it's me just battling between the gift that God has given me to speak to people, to reach to people, to have His Spirit speak through me to other people, and my not wanting to be that vessel and being like, no, I don't feel like being that vessel today. Can you pick somebody else? Nobody else got up today. So I got up today and I shared with everybody at my church today, in my ward, and just basically said, hey, I don't want to be here today. But I'm here today because I didn't want to feel that blanket of darkness. And I know that the light of Christ can work in my life when I make choices to do positive things, like be at church, places that will uplift me, that help me to feel that spirit and allow myself to come out of my shell instead of hide and be buried in my depression. So I was just sharing that, and grateful that I can recognize the difference at this point in my life. And I had several people thank me for sharing that. And then, the next hour of church, we had Sunday school, and the teacher just kept bringing up my testimony, my sharing of that. And I was like, can we not use what I just said as an example? Because I just felt really kind of embarrassed by it a little bit, for one. And for two, I kind of felt like, it's a great little metaphor that yes, yes, there's that dark blanket, and yes, I had that thought or that impression that came to mind that if I got up or did something positive, it would help to overcome the depression, and then it doesn't win today. But as I was journaling about it tonight, I realized that I'm like, okay, that's a very simplified version of it, and it's not always that black and white. It's not always that simple when it comes to dealing with depression, when it comes to dealing with things in life. Sometimes that struggle is a lot harder than it sounds, or than it looks. And so I know that the teacher wasn't by any means trying to belittle what I was doing. The lesson was talking about doing the impossible in life and overcoming what seems like impossible and reaching beyond what we feel like we're capable of doing. So yes, overcoming my depression and going to church is sometimes something that feels impossible to do. And there have been weeks and days when I have chosen not to get out of bed or chosen not to do anything because I have let my depression take over. And today I won that battle, and I was very grateful that I won that battle. A little embarrassed that I shared that battle with everybody because that they were using it as an example and a reference. But it again reminded me that God has given me the gift to speak, to reach people. And maybe not everybody's interested in what I have to say. Not everybody's open to feeling the light of Christ in them. And I feel like it flows through me. It's not something, I feel like I'm the vessel that just, the messenger kind of a thing. I'm not actually like this great, wonderful, amazing person that's sharing all of these things. I just feel like it's a gift that God has given me, and I am trying to learn to be grateful for that gift and to share it in the best way that I can, that makes me the most comfortable, which is these videos makes me the most comfortable, because there aren't people walking up to me afterwards telling me things or quoting back to me what I just said or rephrasing what I said. And I was like, oh, I know I want to be a published author and I want to put my writing and everything out there, but that same thing's going to happen when I put my writing out, is people are going to read my stuff and they're going to quote my stuff and they're going to quote it back to me. And that might actually be a really good thing, but that's a really hard thing for me to accept, because I think I still struggle with that self-esteem part of and feeling like I'm good enough or worthy enough. And I'm working on that. But I am grateful to God for pointing these things out to me, and that He has entrusted me with this gift, and He is teaching me how to use it. So He is alive and working in my life, even when I don't necessarily want Him to be, because He has a plan for me. And someone at church and Sunday school today that said God is the plan. And they said there's not like a backup plan or anything else. God is the plan. And I really appreciated that they said that, because I'm like, that's true. You can't have, plan A, plan B. Like in life, it's all about, how you handle plan B, because plan A, my way, my will doesn't work out. But God's plan is there, and it's mapped out. It's infinite, and He knows everything that I don't. He sees the big picture that I can't see. So, His plan is the only plan that's going to work. It's the only one that's going to bring true peace and true happiness. It's the only one that can truly get rid of the darkness. When I let that light into my life, the darkness fades away and it has no power over me. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that it just completely disappears. It's kind of like, you turn a light switch and it's like, hey, it's light inside, but it's still really, dark when you turn the light off. It's not gonna, it's not a permanent thing. I have to continue to use the tools and work my program and continue to pray and read my scriptures and meditationals and continue to share and use the gifts that God has given me in order to, keep those floodgates closed, in order to keep that depression at bay, to keep the darkness where it can't affect my whole day or my whole life. And it is a process, and it is a daily process. So anyone that's struggling with that, I understand your struggle, and I know that it's difficult. And I know that it seems impossible sometimes, but it is possible with God's help to overcome anything and everything that you're struggling with. But it's not always an immediate thing. It's not always so black and white. And sometimes it's a continuous struggle. It's not something that just, hey, I conquered it today and it means it's never coming back again. It doesn't always work that way. So I am grateful that I'm learning tools and ways to handle things in my life, and just grateful to be aware that God is there and that He's putting people in my life to help me, to bless me, to uplift me. And He's giving me the opportunity to share that with other people, to say, hey, you're not alone, and God is still there in your life as well, and as much for you as He is for me. And I am so grateful for that knowledge and for the peace that that brings, and for that light that comes into my life that will chase away the darkness. And like I said, I'm not perfect at it. I don't always grab hold of the light. Sometimes I do let that darkness take over. But, and I did a little bit this afternoon, if I'm perfectly honest. I came home and came back to my parents' house and took care of the dog and got something to eat and just kind of laid on the couch. And I didn't go to my 12-step meeting today, and I didn't do anything else today. I was kind of like, that was the hardest thing for me to do today, and I can't do it. I'm done. And then I decided I was just needed to go to bed, and I'm like, all right, then I got to write in my journal. And I'm like, okay, I wrote in my journal, and then I got to make my video. And I'm grateful that once again I can move past whatever those emotions and feelings are, those triggers of being overwhelmed or not feeling like I'm worthy of the gift, or to be quoted by other people. It's just kind of like, okay, I feel embarrassed that people are quoting me, instead of being like, hey, I did something cool and this is so exciting and I'm proud of myself for that. So maybe someday that will shift and I will be proud, or at least not be embarrassed by it, because I know it's not something to be embarrassed of. It's just kind of my initial reaction. I'm not used to that kind of attention, and I was just like, I don't feel like I'm that wonderful or that it's quote worthy, but thank you for quoting me or for paraphrasing what I said today. And I'm glad it worked for your lesson, but I just feel embarrassed by it. So that's another one of those things for me to be aware of and to work on. And I know life is a process. There's always something new to learn and some new ways for me to grow. And I will never be perfect in this life, but I'm going to continue to work towards being happy and towards having that light of Christ in my life, and finding ways to share that with other people. So thank you for watching these videos. Thank you for your wonderful supportive comments. And if you like these videos, please continue to watch, hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think they'll like them too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude, and maybe find some ways to recognize God's hand in your life too.